particular text. In chapter 29, we meet David as he is positioning himself with another king, the king of Achish, to present him and his army of men, his 600 army of men, before the Philistine nation. At this point, when chapter 29 opens up, it opens up with, now the Philistines gathered together all their armies to Aphek, and the Israelites pitched by a fountain which is in Jezreel. So there is a war at hand. Israel is about to go to war with the Philistines. Up to this point, David is the champion of Israel as it relates to the Philistines. David has unalived Goliath, their giant. Their giant that waged war with the nations and dominated so much that no one could contend against him. Using the armor that we spoke to in the podcast or the Bible study regarding it, David defeated one of their most formidable warriors. Goliath represented the strength and the prowess of the Philistine nation. This in itself was a huge deal, because after David defeats Goliath with nothing but one stone, word goes out. This is during a time when word of mouth was everything. You could be done away with just by a rumor. No social media, no mail, no newspaper, strictly word of mouth. David defeats the Philistines' most powerful warrior, a giant, with nothing but a slingshot and a stone. And then we fast forward from there, and David is waging war with the Philistines at every turn to keep them at bay while he is trying to figure out what to do about the Saul situation. He's ostracized from his nation, yet he's still being a shield and a resource in the protection of his nation. Keilah. David goes to Keilah, and the Philistines are there robbing the threshing floor, taking all of the substance that these people will have throughout the seasons of life, depleting their resources. David comes and defeats the Philistines. So where we see David waging war with the Philistines again, or not again, but where we see David coming upon the king of Achish to partner with the Philistines, is right here in chapter 29. But I want you to listen to the verbiage that the Bible speaks to us to how David did it. We're going to get into this. Chapter 29, verse 2. And the lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands, but David and his man passed on in the reward with Achish. They're all about to go to battle. All of the armies are arraying themselves. It's going to be a toe-to-toe conflict going on. Everybody is lining up their troops. What the Bible is conveying regarding these lords of the Philistines, you would think that there's hundreds of thousands of them, the way that it sounds, the way that I read it. And the lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands, but David and his men on in the reward with Achish. So it sounds like there's hundreds and there's thousands of the Philistine rulers, but that's not what it's conveying. There were 5 independent city-states that made up the Philistine nation. And each of these states had rulers. The Philistine nation was like a confederacy. They're kind of like the Midianite and the Moabite situation, where you gather a group of people that are closely uh, neighboring one another, and you create a confederacy. And this confederacy will buffer you, meaning that if something happened to one nation, one city, another city could come to the rescue. The neighboring nations would all coagulate to support one another. This is kind of like how the Philistine nation was set up. It's a confederacy. They called it Pentapolis. I think that's a Greek name. I don't know what they originally called it, but due to Hellenistic practices, we're going to call it Pentapolis, okay? And these 5 Philistine rulers, what the Bible is conveying in verse 2 is that there are 5 Philistine rulers walking. Some walking into battle amongst hundreds, some coming into battle amongst thousands, meaning some had larger armies that they were representative of than others. Yet they're all one unit going to battle together. One band, one sound. This is where they get that from. The Philistines. Now, I told you in past Bible studies or even in podcasts who these Philistine people are. You can go reference my past communications on them. They were a group of people you didn't want to see them coming, friend. I'm telling you. They were organized. They had a lot of courage. They were somewhat comparable to Israel in the fact that they believed in themselves, friend. They saw themselves capable. And they were scandalous in the sense that they were audacious. They had heart. Wherever you have courage and it comes from within, you will be audacious. You will always see yourself capable. So there's not a lot of fear buffering you from expanding and moving fluidly. Fear is not their God. Fear is not cloaking them and limiting their perspective, neither their activity. When the Israelites went to wage war with the Philistines and they didn't see themselves capable, they became intimidated. And then someone said, let's go get the Ark of the Covenant. And they went and got the Ark of the Covenant. And once they brought the Ark of the Covenant, the Philistines, the Bible says the Philistines heard them cheering and happy for miles and miles. Because they felt like, okay, we could actually overcome now. We have this physical Ark of the Covenant. Whereas before, when it was just man to man, will against will, purpose against purpose, they didn't see themselves capable. And what happened? God allowed them to lose the war against the Philistines. Why? Because the Philistines came back after hearing the Israelites cheering and happy, uplifted, courageous now because they have the Ark of the Covenant. Whereas before they didn't have it, they didn't feel that way. Now that energy needed to go somewhere. Right? The energy that Israel was feeling before of being defeated and saddened has been replaced because of the Ark of the Covenant. And now they're happy. But that saddened, that defeated energy, that spirit want to go somewhere. And it tried to rest upon the Philistines. That's what the Bible conveyed. And then what did the Bible also say? That the Philistines says, we will not bow down to you. They overcame that lesser spirit with the spirit of knowing and a spirit of audaciousness, a spirit of real courage, not manufactured courage, not a pep talk. I'm going to give you a pep talk. We're going to fake it until we make it. Let's go get them, Tiger. Not that, but a truth. And in this spirit, God respected it. and allow them to defeat Israel and take the Ark of the Covenant. This is the only reason why the Philistines got it, is because they adopted the right spirit. All these things you need to realize because they form a body. They tell you who's leading these people. I can tell what the mind is like. I can tell what the character of the head is by way the body moves. And the Philistines as a people, even though they were scandalous, surely, I'm telling you, they may not respect the way you respect. They may not honor the way that you honor. But as far as character, as far as inner resolve, as far as integrity, will coupled with power, they had it.